Yo, Joe, you know I am so strict, right? But I am just wondering what's going on with my homies Apple, brand builders extraordinaire. They apparently are going to buy Beats Music, another brand. What is going on?
Yes, Alan, I know you're a fan of Dr. Dre, but I don't think Apple is buying Beats for their headphones. I mean, Apple's own accessories business is like $6 billion a year in revenue, and it makes like $90 billion plus from iPhones. So it's not the hardware, it's the software, because Beats Music, as I'm sure you'll be aware, has its own subscription music service as of this year. And that is quite important for the buy versus build question for Apple, because iTunes is a pretty terrible music service at this point.
Right. So Apple are spending $3 billion, which to me and you sounds like a lot of, dinner change. But for Apple, it's not a lot of money. Should we be concerned about how they're
Yeah, I
spending
mean,
shareholder
I
money?
think that's a slightly sort of dangerous, slippery slope here. Because, yeah, sure, it's not a lot as a percentage of Apple's cash, which is $160 billion, or of its market capitalization, which has recently just gone north of $500 billion. However, it's where else could it have spent the $3 billion? Because, right, it's not going to have the Beats brand. I think we started by noting that. It's not going to have the hardware, it's the software. And the software is only useful if you think music streaming in 2014 is still a war worth fighting. And it is not, right? iTunes made $16 per user in 2008 from sort of music sales. Now it's down to like $1 per user. Now the joker in the pack is that iTunes effectively has 800 million credit card numbers to call on. So Amazon has like 250 million-ish. So it's a massive ecosystem. But if you cannot if you can barely break even on that sort of base by selling music, this is not really a growth business anymore.
So Apple shareholders should really think what about this?
You know, they think, well, where else could that $3 billion have been spent? And I think the problem for iTunes now is not music streaming, because again, like I said, that's a war which has been lost by everybody. It's content distribution's future as a whole. And for Apple, that should mean, do they pay up for Netflix, which has a $20 billion market capitalization, or do they pay up for Spotify, which, yes, it's a music streaming business, but it's a $4 billion valuation, and its most recent funding round, so it's not a huge amount, and they have 10 million paying subscribers, or almost that number, compared to less than 1 million for Beats. So it's, what's your bang for your buck, really? That still matters even when you have lots of bucks, as Apple does.
Okay, great, Joseph. Really very interesting. Thanks a lot.